It is 10 o'clock. It's Lancaster Woodturners weekly coffee hour for January 2nd, 2025. I'm seeing 33 on screen. Let me see. Lancaster announcements. Anybody got club announcements anybody wants to make? My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator as usual today. Very relaxed day here. I've got, if you hear jumping around in the background, it's my wife in the other room with her exercise class winding down. Okay, any club announcements? Ziegler, what's up with Lancaster Club? What's coming up?
Let's see. On Tuesday night, we have Dave Welch, I think, from Easy Wood Tools, and we've asked him to turn a goblet, figuring that will several different orientations of wood with the carbide tools. So that should be interesting.
Trying to spotlight you, but that didn't work.
Hey, John, we got a special guest today.
Yes, I see Barbara Dill is on. Barbara's going to join us next week she's going to show slides, and we're going to ask her questions and show multi-center work. I was looking a minute ago for my multi-center background to bring up, and I can't find it on this computer. That is next week on Coffee Hour, the 9th. We'll have Barbara will be with us. So anybody, and I have sent you out and put in the chat, and I don't think I can repeat it today. I'll put it in the next email. The link to Barbara's article in American Woodworker from a dozen years ago that sets the groundwork for what she's accomplished, and also shows a marvelous portfolio of multi-center and off-center work. But she's going to bring us some slides, I hope, and show a lot of that next week anyhow. But I'll get those of you who have not done your homework, I'll get you an email out tomorrow with all that data in it. Ziegler, you're back. I saw you click. We lost you for a minute there.
Yeah, I've got really poor internet here. So we had our executive meeting the other night, and I think it took an extra half an hour because I froze so many times. Yeah. So anyhow, and then this is no secret. So John they're having an event at the Museum for Art and Wood on the 11th, which would typically be our open shop. So we're going to move open because several of us are going to see John at the Museum for Art and Wood on the 11th.
So you're going to have open shop on the 18th then, are you? He's frozen again, but I believe that's what's going to happen. So Lancaster Club meeting then is next Tuesday, and then the open shop is on the 18th. Is that right, John?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. We're going to go to any other club announcements before I go to the hands.
Yeah, John, the Quad State Bodgers open shop will be this Saturday at my place.
And what time does that start?
Starts at 9, and we usually wrap up around 3 in the afternoon.
And your place is in Keezer, West Virginia. Am I right about that?
It's Kaiser, but yeah, you're close enough.
Close enough. Okay. And do you have to be a member of the club, or what if somebody just drops in?
Everyone's welcome.
All right. Any other club announcements? Vasco, are you on here?
Yep, I'm on. We changed our meeting from January 1st to January 8th this year. We're going to try a new format. We're going to have 3 different people give short demonstrations. It's going to be different ways of attaching wood to a lathe, whether it be for a sphere or a Jacob's chuck or a Longworth chuck. We're going to try to show people different ways of attaching it. I
applaud that effort. I'm very much in favor of short demos of small topics. Long demos of big topics become increasingly unwieldy in the club meeting format. So that's a great idea.
We're going to try it, see if it works.
I bet your guys will like it. Okay, let's look at hands. Let me see. I'd like to see. Okay, let's start with George. George, what do you have today?
Okay.
Looking at you, you're spotlight.
Yeah, I got into multi-axis turning.
Okay.
That's 4 axis.
turn it around so we can see what shape that is. Okay, so why did you do it? What are you trying to do there?
No, just finding out what you can do with multi-axis.
Okay.
So I hollowed it out.
So
and,
the flats, those flats on the bottom with the feet, each one is I don't see how you mounted that or anything else. Explain it a little better, please.
Okay, I hollowed it out a normal way. Then I glued in a piece about 1.5 inches, put that in a chuck, and then turned it in the chuck to get the 3 axes.
So does it rest on those 3 feet?
No, that's the top, basically.
Oh, that's the top. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
George, if you put pegs in that, you could turn it and sit it on its feet and it'd be a fondue pot.
That's an interesting piece. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's different.
Put two contrasting pegs for eyes, and then it'd be a very interesting looking alien face.
Well, what
I
I'm
guess-
interested in that, was it difficult? Those look like each of those segments there is very much the same. Was it difficult to keep it that balanced and symmetrical?
No. Basically, you have to keep those lines, once you turn one, and then mark the middle between the 2 axes, then the next one you turn up to that line, so you know you're correct.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to try that. That's a very interesting look.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun to do this.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna try it too. I think that looks fun.
Yeah. Now be sure you bring multi-axis things back next week when we've got Barbara on stage. Barbara's here today, just watching us.
Hi
Yeah,
there.
no,
Hi,
Hi.
Barbara.
George, you said you put a plug into the hole. How did you get the offsets and make that so perfect? I mean, they're look like a perfect 120 degrees apart.
yeah, they are. But you move it in the chuck, so then you mark the circle for them, indicate the 3. Now mark the 3, and then basically you drill the hole, then move your cone in the headstock in the hole just to keep it from flying away, and do your flat, and then you do the next 2. It's fairly simple, not complicated.
So basically, you've created a tenon in
Yeah,
that hole,
yeah.
and
The tenon moves around in the chuck.
you just kind of tweak
tilt
it.
it.
Yeah.
Tilt it
Wow.
in the chuck.
Okay.
Okay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. That's a good one.
Very good.
You got
Beautiful.
anything else today?
That's it for today.
Okay, thank you, George. Good kickoff to the day. Ziegler, how about you? What do you want to show us?
Well, I hadn't been on the lathe for a while, and I actually got my first quote unquote commission from a guy that services my mother-in-law's water softener, and she called me up and she says, Don Wooten wants 6 trees with a store on top. And so I made him 6 or 7 trees and sent them down. I don't have them here, but like I said, I hadn't been turning, so I had a piece of wood and I made this, which I'd never turned one of these little monsters. Looks like an alien landed.
How
It
did
doesn't-
you do that?
Say what?
How did you do that?
It was a mess, to be honest with you.
It looks like it's in the mahogany we bought too. It looks like it's in that really nice mahogany. And now he's frozen. He's got that lousy DNS connection.
Right now I'm on Woodturners. Just,
Am I frozen now?
I don't know
You're
yet.
back. You're back. How'd you do it?
Well, so I cut a square blank and did the bottom. not particularly well. There was all kinds of chip out on the trailing edge, tons of chip out. So I basically, it turned into a carving with a Dremel tool to try to even out the legs. And close inspection or touching it, it is rough as can be. It's like, I'd say it's primitive. But, you know, I stuck with it just to see what I could make out of it. The sides turned out relatively symmetrical, even though I carved the legs back with the Dremel. And then the front, I made a jam chuck. And then I had a tenon on the bottom of this, so I just hollowed the top normally. And then I put a jam chuck on it and took the tenon off the bottom.
Is that the Cuban mahogany?
No, it's a piece of, what the heck is it called? I think it's called Granadillo or something like that.
Granadillo, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to say it was fun, but it was like almost mind numbing at some point, and I was going to just stop, but I kept going just because I figured I could learn some things and try to finish it. So from a distance, it doesn't look too bad. When you get up close, I'd give it about a C-.
From a distance, that looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, like I said, from a distance. And then I had a piece of Bacote that I bought at the symposium, and it had really strong figure in it. It was only a spindle about, I don't know, 2 inches square. So I made a Angelo had done that, the little Japanese, what do you call them, noodle or soup bowls or whatever. Do you recall that? So
Rice
I had
bowl.
I had a tiny, like 2-inch.
Yeah, it's frozen again.
I think the wind's blowing his telephone lines
Yeah,
together.
yeah, he's frozen again.
Is it frozen now?
Now you're back.
Not now.
Okay, so I'll make it quick. I made a Japanese soup bowl for Angelo. It's about 1.75 inches with a little tiny foot on the bottom. I have some photographs of it, but I won't worry about that. So that was it.
All right. Now, Angelo is organizing to bring the Japanese turner of those bowls to our region to demonstrate. I think he's trying to get her into the next Mid Atlantic Symposium, and I think that's going to include building another Japanese lathe. And I say another, in that this has happened before, because they work on the bottom of the lathe, or we work up here. They work down here.
Yeah.
I can't quite even imagine how it goes, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, Doug and
Yeah.
Angelo and I were talking about that at the last open shop, and so Doug has some great ideas, and we're going to put our heads together and see if we can't build this lathe.
We may be looking for some people around the Lancaster area who might be willing to help cut out and do some of the table for us. It was suggested that some of the folks in retirement homes who've got access to a large workshop might be interested in helping us out. We found a place for buying the belts and making the belts and all that sort of stuff. So we're well on the way to putting something together. We'll keep you up to date.
What's the principle, Doug? What are you trying to do?
Well, the Japanese lathe is just it's a really just an old-fashioned lathe to many of us, and the real thing on the principle of the lathe is that it has 2 belts going in opposite directions, so that with a kick of your foot, with the kick of the pedal, you can literally reverse the direction of the lathe back and forth. So they don't really change speed; they just change direction quite a bit, I understand. So I don't have them on this computer, but for next week, or perhaps I can pull up some pictures of the lathe we're actually trying to make if people are interested.
Yeah,
Because
we'd very much like to know that. Yes,
May I say something?
sure. Who is
The
it?
AAW, she demonstrated in Portland last year, and it was fascinating. And I wonder if the AAW didn't film that. I believe they did. So they should have a video of her demonstration, which was just amazing.
Yes, I understand you're correct, Barbara. That's the case. We're making a second lathe. She wasn't quite satisfied with the lathe they used at Portland, so we're making another one. It shouldn't be that difficult to do if we get. And Angelo's in the current case of drawing it up and making all the dimensions and getting it all accurately done, so we can set out pieces to make.
Now, do they turn the same way we do with a tool rest orientation to the lathe? There's something weird about it that I don't understand quite what it is.
The tool rest is a small piece that sits on top of the table and it shifts around. So the tool rest isn't fixed. Only the turning is fixed. So they have a large table that they put the tool rest on. That's, if you can imagine, just like almost maybe 4 feet wide, or 3 or 4 foot wide table they sit up against. So, and the tool rest is only maybe 8 inches or so off the top of the table, but it's like a little sawhorse almost shape for the tool rest that moves around, so they can move that easily as they're turning. Again, I think for the best thing to do is, as Barbara suggested, if there's any AAW videos, you can look it up and see that from that perspective. But we're trying to sort it out anyway.
I can share the screen quickly if you'd like to see it.
Sure. Oh, you got the pictures, don't you, John?
Yeah, I do.
Show those pictures, John.
Give it a try. Let's see if your DNS will hold.
Can you see that?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
There we go.
There.
So this is the tool rest, obviously. She makes her own tools and sharpens them. This is not necessarily configuration that she wants, but because the lathe, the motor was mounted to the same table as the tool vibrated. So ideally the motor and the spindle.
You want them separated so they don't vibrate, I think. I think that would make sense to me as well. Okay, I'm starting to see what she's doing there and how that works. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So
There.
Doug, I think we were talking about actually recording this, the process of making this lathe, and we can share it as time goes on Coffee Hour.
Yeah.
Good.
I did a quick search on the web and there's videos there. So if you want to see it, it's available on the internet.
Okay. Comments or questions about that before I move on? All right. I'm now seeing 46 on screen, which is pretty typical for us by this time. Let me see. Who else wants to? Sherry, what are you up to?
Well, I was gonna,
You're spotlit. Okay.
can you see this?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, when I first started turning, I was strangely started doing segmented work from reclaimed hardwood flooring, and then I morphed out of the segmented stuff and had all kinds of leftover hardwood, and so started making some charcuterie boards. As you can see, I kind of left the charcuterie board machine on, made all kinds of them, mostly square ones. And then that got a little boring, and so started making some interesting shapes. So let's see if this works here. So turn one to a
Oh wow.
an acoustic guitar.
Well, you've got a lot of cross-grain gluing going on there. What's holding all that together?
Yeah. So these, some of these were strips that were initially made for, a different orientation of a board. But again, after I had some of the cutoffs, it seemed a shame to throw them away. So put them into some different shaped pieces. And yes, it is a challenge, because as you can see, that multi-strip board there, the grain is all going the wrong way. Don't recommend it, but it turned out okay. But yeah, it definitely makes the whole thing more challenging.
Well, I'm thinking over time with washing, it's going to break apart.
Well, it's intended to be a serving board, like a charcuterie board, and I give instructions along with them to encourage people, not to put it in the water or leave food or anything on it, just to use it to, just wipe it. And probably more than anything, you know, when you watch those design shows, people always have a nice little charcuterie board sitting on their counter. I don't know as they often use them, so whether these are used or not, I'm not sure. It was just a fun project. So this,
Sherry, what
sorry?
adhesive did you use? It seemed
Tight
like
Bond 3.
I'm sorry.
Tight Bond 3.
I wondered if you used a two-part epoxy as the glue, whether that would hedge the bet against it coming apart.
Ah, that's a great idea. Yeah, could give that a whirl. I haven't had great luck with epoxy. I'm determined to figure it out, but we don't get along very well right now.
I would have thought
Epoxy and
Type
cross
1 3
grain is too brittle for when you got the grains at 90 degrees. Epoxy is the worst thing you can do. It breaks almost immediately. Tight bond's more flexible.
Yeah, okay.
I would have thought Type Bond 3 would be about the best you could do on that, actually, yeah. Because it's
Yeah.
water resistant and it always retains a bit of flex.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I chose it. So this was an acoustic guitar. Here's an acoustic electric. So just a little bit of inlay. Here's an electric. Did a fiddle. Some of my friends are painting artists, so did a painter's palette.
That's pretty nice. That looks like it's got some turning in it, no?
That?
Yeah.
No,
No?
just cut on the bandsaw. So yeah, sorry, this isn't really turning type stuff. This is what you do with the leftover scraps from your turning type stuff.
Good usage.
There's just another little charcuterie. There was a lazy Susan.
I like that one. That's really nice.
Then I had a friend who's a photographer and loves grizzly bears, so did a grizzly bear for her.
You want to go back for a minute to the round one? The one that was just, yeah, this one. The curved arcs there, those
Mhm.
are a darker wood, or are they a glue or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, they're wenge.
So did you saw them on the curve or bend them by pushing the two pieces of lighter wood together, or what's going on there?
So I sawed the blank to have a curve in it, and then cut the wenge about the same thickness as the bandsaw blade, and then basically just squeeze it all together with clamps, and it forces, as long as you don't cut the wenge part too thick, it forces it into the curve.
Okay, so that you didn't cut this little 1/8 inch strip that's a foot long and an arc like that and
No, I cut a straight strip
strip.
that was an 1/8 inch wide, and then forced it to bend by clamping it.
All right.
To get the same shapes, did you stack the light wood over the dark or vice versa?
Yes. For the most part.
Can you name all the wood plugs you have in there?
Yes. I
The
can
wood.
name a lot of them. So
Okay.
maple, walnut, bloodwood. I think that that is African blackwood. There's some purple heart in there, and yeah, I
Good.
won't.
That's all right. I was just testing you.
Okay, and then there's the little grizzly that I did, and then I found out that her favorite thing to photograph is polar bears, so I had a piece of leftover corian. So cut out a polar bear, and yeah. Anyways, I'll stop there.
Great stuff, Sherry. Thank you very much. Questions and comments for Sherry?
Sherry, this is Sarah. I love your work. It's beautiful. I have a question about your Lazy Susan and
Okay.
attaching the hardware to it. So a long time ago, early on, I created something not similar to your design, but it had cross pieces, and it was a segmented piece that I attached to a Lazy Susan. And then when I guess, moisture changed, it split apart. I haven't had that issue with any of my other boards, but with the Lazy Susan, with it being attached to the hardware, I did have that issue. Have you run into that at all, or has anybody else run into that?
I haven't run into it, but I've only made two boards into Lazy Susan, so it could simply be beginner's luck. I didn't have that challenge yet.
I found the last time I tried a Lazy Susan, I cut the recess for it too close. And then the wood moved a bit and the way Lazy Susan bound up completely. And it's sufficiently bound up that it's going to take a bit of a pry to get it out of there, which I have not yet done. So it's a Lazy Susan that's turned into Stop Dead Susan.
Yeah, I wonder, would it work to mount a thin but a separate piece of wood to the bottom of the Lazy Susan and then affix the hardware to that piece and then
Yep. I wanted it to sit right almost on the table, you know, with no clearance. No clearance. So that's why I recessed it into the wood. But next time I do it, I'll just make a bigger recess and give it more slop. It'll work a lot better.
I was gonna say, to John's point, the metal part is going to expand differently with moisture, or not expand with moisture and heat the way that wood does. So you're going to get two different expansions. So unless you have some sort of a little bit of give between the metal and this Lazy Susan, the metal will crack, hold the wood so it'll crack instead of whatever. So
yeah, potential for trouble, but a good, yeah.
I wonder if you made the bearing surface that spins out of marbles that you contain in a track, whether it would work. I mean, then you don't have to mess with this metal. Sorry, Doug. I know you're a metallurgist.
You can do that, Jim. But the problem is keeping the balls in the track. So it's just a matter of how you make the track. A Lazy Susan is just a large bearing, and however you make that bearing is up to you.
Anybody else on this? Thanks a lot, Sherry. It's always good to hear from you and see your stuff. Randy Smith.
Okay. Of course, tomorrow starts Farm Show Week. We will be demonstrating the Susquehanna Woodturners, and some other people will be doing a demonstration of turning at the farm show. Anybody who wants to visit, the demonstration area for us is just inside the main exhibition hall on McClay Street, about 100 yards from the butter sculpture.
Is it a butter cow this year?
I don't know. I saw a thing on the news last night, but I don't think they actually showed what it was. But in any case, in January, the second Tuesday, we normally do a live stream from the farm show because it coincides with our monthly meeting. But this year, because the farm show is early, the farm show closes before our Tuesday meeting. So we're going to have a hands-on demonstration. Come on out, turn some things, bring your tools, bring your wood, bring your face shield, and turn something. The other thing is in March, I believe, we're organizing a interactive remote demo. I don't remember offhand the person's name who's doing the demo, but that's coming in March.
Randy, in March, we're having the same guy as the Lancaster Club is having in January. David, David, what's his name, is going to be there in March.
Oh, okay, David.
David from Easy Wood Tools.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are carbide tools, are they not?
Yes.
Okay.
The last thing is, does anyone know Rick Atkins' email address?
Yes, I'll send it to you after.
Okay, I need to get his actual postal address so we can send him the parking passes.
I have that too. I'll send you that after as well. That's
okay, thank you.
It's in the previous chats if you've got those also, because that's where you send checks if you're renewing for Lancaster Club. Rick is the current treasurer.
Oh, okay.
Club. But I can't remember the address offhand. I'll get it to you later today if I remember.
Hey, John,
And
since you mentioned it, is there any way for us to know if we have re-upped our membership without going back through or trying to look through PayPal or something to see if we signed up?
I can't help you. You got to talk to Rick. Rick's the
Okay.
treasurer. Unfortunately, he doesn't come on coffee hour because he's a working man.
Hey,
And-
Jim,
Yeah. Yes, John.
we had our executive meeting and we were talking about how we can be more effective in letting people know the status of their memberships.
Yep.
Well,
I
did you
know it's
solve-
pretty easy. If you pay both by PayPal and by check, he will get in touch with you and tell you that you paid twice.
okay,
Oh, you will? Just deposit both of them.
and
How
Let
did
me
you
just
learn that?
say- Let me just say that when I was the treasurer, we sent out receipts.
Well, AAW lets you know if your membership is lapsing. That's the way I make sure I keep my membership up to date, but the club doesn't send me a notice if I haven't signed up, so.
Well, Lancaster Club, it's an annual membership. It just goes around January to January. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
yeah, last thing, our church makes Easter eggs every year, and some other things like lollipops.
What?
Last year, we made 26,000 Easter eggs.
What?
For
Yep.
what? What did you do with them?
We sold them.
To who?
Anybody who wants them.
26,000? How'd you sell 26,000?
They're really good Easter eggs. People come in from outside the church to get Easter eggs.
Are you talking about wooden Easter eggs or egg Easter eggs?
Oh, egg Easter eggs. We have like 4 different kinds of chocolate, a filling, 3 different kinds of chocolate.
All
My
right.
preference is white chocolate.
You got it.
You know what? I just figured out we are missing a chance to learn how to make eggs on the lathe by not asking the chickens. So
I'll show you how to make eggs on the lathe if you don't already know, Jim. It's easy.
I have no
made it-
desire to make eggs on the lathe. I prefer to eat them.
I made a dozen eggs, wooden eggs, and I put them in an egg carton, and I handed it to my granddaughter. At that time, she was about 8 years old. And just before she reached and grabbed it, I let go of it and it hit the floor. And I wished I would have had that on video because everybody in that room, their looks on their faces were priceless. I'll never be able to repeat that again.
That's a one-off, that's for sure.
Yeah, but my granddaughter took that to heart, and so she did that to everybody that came to their house. She said, "Here, can you hold these?" And she'd drop it, just so she could watch the reaction. It was hilarious.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
see.
that's it.
I got Toby and I got Mike Peace. Toby, what do you have today?
I have a couple pieces to share. Oh, are you seeing it there?
Yeah, we got it.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. This is black locust burl. I hope I haven't shown this one before.
No, you haven't.
Okay. No dye on this one. It's 11 by 4 inches. Couple views of it.
I don't really see what's holding that together. It looks like there's several chunks of that are about ready to fall right off.
It's a little bit of, I used Milliput, if anybody's familiar with that. I put in here, it's a 2-part epoxy putty you mix together. I just stuffed it in there and it pretty well held together while I was turning it. Then afterwards, I put the putty in just to fill in the gaps.
Does it look okay, or do you see it in other lights? Does it look like putty?
It looks like resin. There, you can see it on the bottom.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It was really easy to work with, and I kind of liked, rather than mixing epoxy up and turning that off, this stuff, I don't know, it was easy to work with for me. There's the inside of it. It sort of goes with the rest of the coloration of this piece.
Uh-huh.
No dye on this one.
It looks like
And my,
it looks like the wall thickness at the top there is different from the wall thickness on the bottom edge there. Am I looking at it right?
yeah, I believe it is. I think I got a little thin one down below, and this side is a little lower than than the front here. So yeah,
Does that mean it was like
not my best turning, but
did you have it on two centers or something? It looks like it was like the outside was turned on a little bit different center than the inside.
no.
Okay, just the way the burl worked.
Yeah, it's higher on the left side here than on the right side, and it's thicker near the top. As they go down, it gets thinner, and this is even lower, so it's thinner. So is what it is.
Okay.
Toby, that's an interesting idea though, to add interest to to turn it thinner instead of trying to do the usual keep the walls and the bottom all the same. I like your idea. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't an idea, it just happened.
Hey, that's still
But
an
thanks.
idea.
That's how things work.
Yeah. So the second piece is this is oak. I think it's white oak, but I'm not sure. And it was part of a burl. There is some burl figure down here, but it's the spalting was what I liked about this piece.
Yeah, that's pretty work. That's kind of nice.
It's 8 inches by 5 inches.
Is there any dye in that? It looks like it got a little bit of orange.
No dye. There is some Milliput down here in the bottom also.
And what wood is that?
It's oak. I believe it's white oak. Or it could be chestnut oak. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Here's where I put Milliput down in here, because this was a hole clear through the piece. And I just stuffed the Milliput in there, and it hardened up, and then I finished it off.
So this is your whole the finish on that is your usual rattle can lacquer, yeah?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You again managed to keep all your bark on without re-gluing it on?
Yeah, normally it stays on for me pretty well, unless the piece has been sitting around on the ground or something where the bark tends to rot first and comes off. So most of my pieces are pretty stable that way. Here's the bottom. It shows a little more where the Milliput goes in. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Toby, a question.
Thanks.
The Milliput, can you cut it with a normal gouge, or do you have to use a negative rake?
I used the regular gouge. Just
Okay.
go down near where you want it and then just sand it off, just like it was regular wood for me.
Okay.
It seems a bit softer than the resin.
Yeah, the resin.
Yes.
That's why I was asking whether it was acting like resin when you were turning it, so.
Yeah, not quite as hard. And I didn't notice any chip out at all, so that was nice.
And let me ask you about that foot while we're looking at it. Is that flat or recessed or dished it a little bit?
It's slightly dished, yes.
So the bowl rests on the outer rim.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Nice work.
Thank
You
you.
know, I've been turning a lot of oak lately, and it's really sparked my interest because I hadn't seen a lot of oak stuff around. So I appreciate you doing the oak.
If it's just plain oak, it's not really fun. But if it has some figure in like this one, then it's worth doing, at least in my opinion.
Or some spalting. You've got some spalting. Nice.
Yes.
Pretty nice spalting going on there. Little wee patterns. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch of oak crotches that are working out nice.
Toby, does oak take dye or doesn't? I've never tried dyeing oak, plain oak.
I think I did another piece. I believe I showed on here, but I just put a faint coat of orangish dye on it. I believe it took the dye okay. I think it works out fine.
Oak works for what, liming or gold paste or something, because you add a little, it sticks in the pores, right? I mean, I think I remember the last one I turned was like that.
Yeah, that's what's up with oak. It has fantastic pores if you're trying to emphasize the pores.
Yeah, oak and
That's
ash are good for that. Yeah.
I think that's what you're seeing in the lines on here are the pores being cut through, I suspect. Yeah. Okay.
The what doesn't work well for dyeing, Jim, is at least in my experience, is black locust. It's just it's too dense the whole way through. There's not any variation. So when you dye it, it just makes the whole thing, it's like you put a filter in front of your lens. It doesn't really add to the piece at all, in my opinion.
You work best in your dyeing work with imperfect wood, right? I mean, wood that's either spalting or got gaps in it or whatever.
Some kind of figure.
Well, burl obviously makes a really, burl is a really good choice for you. So, yeah.
Yep.
Nice stuff, Toby.
All right, thank you.
Toby, I have a question about, I've never heard of this Milliput. How do you spell that? Where do you get it?
I believe I got it on Amazon. Miliput.
Yeah, it's you'll find it, John. It's a version of epoxy putty.
Oh, okay.
How long does it take to set, Toby? You're muted again.
He's muted. About an hour, I think, but I would leave it overnight.
Yeah, I let it set overnight. I don't know how long it's set. I didn't really read the directions.
Yeah.
Toby, I have a question about that first piece where you had a lot of figure and roots and stuff. I've just been turning some cedar that had, it's kind of a root and it had lots of knots and so forth. And no matter how I cut, certain areas I would get a lot of rough texture. I couldn't get a smooth cut in portions. And it was similar to what you were turning. I'm wondering if you have a similar experience. So, I mean, the way I solved it, I just did a bunch of sanding. But do you have some special cutting technique or something?
Well, if you were doing, did you say cedar? The softer woods, you'll get tear out a lot more easily than the hardwood, like the black locust I was turning. But sharp tools and light cuts and knowing how to angle your cutting edge of your tool going into the wood, that's the best you can do. I avoid scraping altogether in that instance.
Okay. Yeah. No, I did all that. I still had a lot of tear out. Okay.
Well, cedar's very difficult. Yeah, yew is beautiful to turn. Cedar is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
John, John,
I don't know if it's either cedar or yew. I mean, the wood was delivered to me by a friend who somebody was cutting this thing out and he delivered it, and it's beautiful.
John,
wood.
John, didn't the grizzly salesman explain to you that when you have a grizzly lathe, you'll never get smooth because the grizzly's always dragging on the wood with his claws?
Oh, get out of here, Bowman.
Now, they never said that to me. I totally missed that part of the sales pitch.
Thanks a lot, Toby. Jeff.
Toby, I like the Christmas trees in the back also.
Yeah, they're good.
Thanks.
Jeff Hankinson, what do you have today?
I thought I would show you, if I can share here, some of Eiko Tanaka's work. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Let's see if I actually share it.
You haven't shared it. Okay. No share information has come through.
Okay.
Here it comes.
You see that?
Yes.
Oh,
so that's Eiko Tanaka's signature piece. I can't remember how much that sold for at Portland, but it was a lot. And that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little pieces that nest together.
Are they each loose pieces, or are those just cut out in one piece?
All loose pieces.
Do they come apart, or are they nestled in there tight? They won't come out.
I think they come apart because you can rearrange them.
Wow. And is that a red wood or a red dye?
That's traditional Japanese red and black and gold dye, or lacquer.
That's a beautiful thing.
Oh, she does beautiful work. So let's see if I can convince my screen to. So there she did some, she and her husband owned a little bar, and her husband asked her if she could turn some glasses for it, which she thought was kind of dumb initially, and then got thinking about it and made some long stem cocktail glasses. Wouldn't that be fun to drink out of? And her workshop's on the main floor of their building, so people can come in and look through the window to see where she's working. And this is her sake container.
Lovely.
Oh, it's just spectacular work. And then she does some commissions for chefs that are well-known chefs, and they want to present their food on an attractive plate, which is a very Japanese idea. They're just so artistic. So imagine your food on a plate like that.
Wow.
So you won't be disappointed by her presentation. A very gracious woman.
At the Portland show, she demonstrated doing that lacquer process.
I think she did actually in Portland, but I didn't see that one.
I saw it on the video. It's really involved something I think that takes years to learn.
Yeah, well, they don't train women, or they didn't traditionally. And up where she is, the number of traditional turners is falling. So they decided to let women in, and she jumped at it. And away she went. And she's just got such an artistic touch.
Beautiful work. Is
So
that
it? Share that. Those are pictures of her pictures.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff, you inspire me to think about making fancy sushi boards. You know, we have a fair amount of Asian fusion restaurants. We have a favorite one here, but they give it to you in a plain black, which is not bad. But now I'm thinking, hey, there's an opportunity here. So
I always like that Jeff comes up on this background of Mount Fuji with cherry blossoms. Where he actually lives in Alberta. I think it's probably pretty white and snowy right now.
You're muted, Jeff.
Mike Peace.
Okay, we're talking about red oak. I found a piece in my backyard of a limb, and I was moving it around and realized it was not rotten and I could salvage it, so the target of opportunity. So I turned some Richard Raffin style pots. These are cross grain, so here's the pith coming through it. This one is finished with Minwax antique oil.
Wait a minute, where was the pith in that? I couldn't quite get it.
It's coming through here sideways.
Okay.
There's the pith. The other one I played with ebonizing, and what I found, if you're going to do any ebonizing, forget the idea of using steel wool. Go over to your grinder with a magnet, especially if you've got CBN wheels, and collect all that dust, that metal dust, and boy, it turns into ebonizing solution in vinegar almost instantly. And
what's the deal? You put the dust in vinegar?
Yes. I mean, traditionally people put nuts and bolts and steel wool. Steel wool, if it's new, it's got oil in it. You got to wash it out in the hot water. You know, but that powder from your grinder, it doesn't take a whole lot, and the vinegar works on it instantly.
Well, I'm noticing on that as well as you made those beads are proud. So you cut the beads in and then brought the surface down to them, the adjacent surface down to them, didn't you?
Yes.
Because I see a lot of beads where the bead stays level with the surrounding surface, so it's more of an incised thing.
Yeah, it's somewhere it depends on what it is, but for things like this and bowls, I tend to like them proud on boxes.
What
did
you do the inside, Mike?
I used the same ebonizing solution. I just didn't. The beauty of ebonizing is you don't have to get as hung up on the inside of sanding, so it's pretty rough, but it's not a functional piece anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then the last one I did, definitely a Richard Raffin style, was using metal reactive paint. And the first one was bronze, and it didn't react well. So I did some brass highlights and put some brass around the rings and touched it a few places with a sea sponge. And then you hit it with a spritzer, and it starts, reacting. And there's no extra finish I'll put on this. On the inside, it's just red acrylic paint. And it turns out red and green are complementary colors. You wouldn't think that'd be an interesting combination, but the red inside works well.
That looks like a piece I would have thrown away long before getting. It looks like it came out from under the sea.
Yeah, one person's trash is another person's treasure, right?
That's for sure. You got anything else? Any questions for Mike? Last couple of minutes, anybody want them, or I'm going to ask you some questions?
John?
Question for Mike, on your nested boxes video, that was an awesome project. I really liked yours and Richard's out of all four. Yours and Richard's were the ones that intrigued me the best.
How does that work?
I went with an extra layer. I figured since the requirement was 3, I figured everybody'd go for 3, so I went for 4. So if I couldn't win it on good looks, at least I'd get it on size. It is a challenge on chucking on something that's tapered like that. It's much more challenging than a uniform cylinder box where all the tenons are going to kind of be the same, because I had to use 2 different chuck sizes and scale them to fit.
No, that doesn't look like smooth wood either. What is that? What's the texture?
This is spalted Bradford pear. Okay. And by the spalting, actually, it's white rot, and the little white places are white rot. But it was still pretty hard. It hadn't gotten punky yet, but it wouldn't have been long.
And is there a dye or anything on that, or what?
No, that's just Minwax antique oil. And Bradford pear. This was an old piece of wood that was completely dry. It had been in my shop for several years. So it had oxidized and turned this beautiful orange. When you put the Minwax on it, it darkens it a little bit more.
I think that was one of the best 4 ways that I've seen. I mean, a lot of them are good, but that one, everybody seemed a little challenged by it.
It is a very challenging project, and the design is a challenge. When you got to say, okay, I'm going to come up with 3 stacking boxes. What is it that I'm making? Is it just a cylinder that might have some interest but not as much, or is there something different I can do with it?
Don Smith, where'd you go, Don? I'm going to take the spotlight off Mike. We've got a couple of Don often pops up at the last minute with something fascinating. Don, what do you got to show us? Now explain that.
A box.
And how'd you do it?
I turned the box as one would normally turn a box, and then with my saddle and router, routed these slots.
Yeah.
And then started off with a dark color.
So those are slots cut into the side of the turning.
Sorry?
Those are slots cut in the side of the turning?
Yeah, they're little slots cut in.
Uh-huh. Now, like flutes, you could do that with a carving tool as well, couldn't you?
Not really when it's turning like that.
Okay.
So with the router going across on its, you can put any depth of cut you want into it, and also the top.
That's a very different piece for you, Don.
Yeah, I saw it done with a chap, and I thought I'd have a go for it. And I was very, very pleased.
That's a beautiful piece.
Don, were you over the moon about it?
Oh, chuffed.
Oh, you were chuffed. Okay.
Chuffed, yeah, I'm chuffed too.
So Don, did you run your router on a pivot to do the sides?
No, I used it with my depth gauge so that I could run it to the depth and run it just without a station. So it was the one with the ball race on the end of the thing so that once you got the depth, you could just run it around.
We're going to need to see some pictures of this in action, Don.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bit too cold at the moment.
yeah, I know.
Just before I go, just to say I shan't be here next week. I've got a dental appointment at the hospital after 12 months, and hopefully I'll have some decent teeth to come back to sometime.
Oh, you will have to show us those.
So I don't think I'll have them next week, but I'll see you on the 16th.
The rest of you all, I'll see you next week when we'll have Barbara Dill center stage. How are you doing, Barbara? Did you enjoy today?
Oh, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. It's nice to meet everybody and see what everybody's up to. Yeah.
And you see how we do this here.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very informal, very relaxed. I like that.
Yeah.
What's the elevator speech for about next week? Do you have an elevator speech to quick give
Sure,
us?
of course. I have been working on a slideshow presentation of the evolution of my work because in the 90s I had no idea what to do other than randomly change the axis. So in 2006, I was able to figure out a way to understand multi-axis spindles, and my work has evolved from that understanding through the years. It's taken many years for my brain to click in and figure out all these things. So I'm presenting that to you in a modified version. I'm putting videos on my YouTube channel, so I'll probably turn this into a video on my YouTube channel. And I'm also giving a presentation to my woodturning club on the third Thursday of this month, which I will do an abbreviated version of this, plus a hands-on demo. So it's been a lot of fun to gather all this information.
I won't see it, Barbara. I'll watch for the video.
Good.
I'm very much looking forward to giving you the spotlight and seeing everything you'd like to show us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you. So that's why I asked people to at least read an article if you haven't already, because I won't be going into a lot of that information. I'll use the vocabulary and go from there.
And I will send out the link to that article in a special email later today or tomorrow.
Great.
So that nobody can say they didn't get it. And I'll include in that email information about re-upping for Lancaster Club dues for anybody on here who feels that they would like to join Lancaster Club, perhaps out of gratitude for what fun this is every week. Because this is free and open to all woodturners. You don't have to belong to the Lancaster Club, but it is also our best recruiting tool. So there you go. See you all next week. Thank you very much for the first show of 2025. We've been doing this for coming on 5 years now.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Bye.
John. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, John.
Yep. Thank you, John.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Bye
Happy
bye.
New Year,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.